thanks for inviting me for a second time. So it seems that the first time was not as bad. I will hope to be useful for your participants and try to provoke some discussion that will be helpful for us all.
Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending. This will be a roughly 20-minute presentation, give or take. I tried to, I negotiated with Monica a little bit. Instead of trying to show things that are already published, that you can find them one way or another out there as open source software or as designs, advanced designs, I decided to describe some material that we're currently developing with my team, the Hellenic OCR team. So as I'm describing what I'm going to show you, let me just share my presentation. All right. Let's assume that everybody is seeing my full screen right now. This is going to be a discussion around the advancements in legal interoperability through LEOS repurposing, and the role, the merit that Comantoso and European integration patterns plays in that. We'll see. We have time to see what this is all. Some of you that are not software developers might have a little bit of problem following this. This is normal. These are some concepts that need elaborating upon. So I suppose we will have also the time to discuss them ex post, so after this presentation. First of all, allow me to say that this is not work that has been conducted within the Hellenic Parliament. There are people in my team that are in the Parliament, but this team that we have established some 4 years ago, the Hellenic OCR team, has tried to build an expert network. So we span across 13 countries. And we have 43 members and 6 physical members, persons, and 6 institutional members, companies, organizations, NGOs. And we do science. So we don't pursue directly, at least, business products. We try to experiment and figure out if some things work for parliaments, some system developments work for parliaments or not. And let me show what this idea is all about. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we are doing this, motivation, essentially. Then I'm going to say some words about the concept of interoperability. Of course, most of you should know that already, but let me try to frame our work within the framework of within the frame of interoperability, particularly legal interoperability. Then I'm going to share some insights on enterprise integration patterns, followed by a brief description of LEOS, of the LEOS system. Fernando Nubla in the morning has described LEOS and its advancements and developments. We try to play with it a little bit. We try to repurpose it. What does this mean? Repurposing? Repurposing means that a tool is built around a certain goal or objective. We try to change it a little bit to do some other things with that. And I'm going to end with some brief results, a conclusion, and maybe an outlook. Right. Why are we trying to do this? Why are we trying to play around with a system that has been developed by the European Commission and its contractors, and is in use in some parliaments in the world, in Europe and in the Commission? Why are we trying to do that? So the basic idea that lies behind our this effort is because we all see that there is a necessity to increase the accessibility and reuse of legal information. At the same time, we observe every day, many of you as parliamentary professionals, others as parliamentary scholars, we observe that day by day, huge amounts of information is stacking up. And this stacking up of information, of data, has already started to become big data. So we don't simply have data, we have big data. So a lot of information, a lot of data is out there. And as we speak, there's well, not quite a new concept, but there's a necessity to link this data at the same time, which leads us directly to speak around big, open, linked data, so bold. So we see this. This is a necessity. We will have to deal with that. That's for sure. So there's a challenge that is related directly with this. The challenge to generate data, maybe not as we do that today, maybe in a more structured way, using standardized templates modeled by schemes like a Komantoso or more complex schemes, as Günther Schäfbeck has described, as we did in many laws, with the help of also of Monica, who guided us through the process. And then, of course, deal with this information, archive it, process it, and of course, analyze it. So how to do that? Well, basically, you need standards and you need tools, digital tools, obviously. And this brings us to our topic. Standards of the likes of Komantoso and tools of the likes of LEOS. And as we were doing this, let's say, this Gedanken experiment, this thought experiment, we thought, well, okay, let's move forward. Why not combine this? Why not play around with LEOS and try to use it in a more versatile way? I'll put here a stop and go now to the notion of interoperability before going back to continue the original thinking. So the reason why we do that, one of the reasons, of course, is to advance interoperability. So for the ones of you who do not have a clear idea what this is all about, there are tons of definitions out there. Let me give just one here that I found to be particularly simple and not too academic or technical. So interoperability describes the extent to which systems and devices can exchange data, interpret that shared data. Okay, and for two systems to be interoperable, they must be able to exchange data back and forth and subsequently present that data such that it can be understood by a user. Now, in the European context, in the European Union context, this has been brought forward particularly through the very original Inspire directive many years ago that has spoken about this systemic interoperability. and has been gradually developed to some new concepts through the European interoperability framework and the new framework that has been developed, and some models that are related or described within this framework. This is, of course, a lot of policy in there, so I would not like to talk here policy. So architecture, why the Commission did this, and how this will advance. This is also these are also governance issues behind. I would not like to elaborate now because we don't have the time. A few things that are important in this regard, though, are that interoperability needs to be by design, so built in those systems. Not, oh, we have the systems, let's see now how we can make them talk. That would be not in the sense of interoperability we are talking about. And somehow it should have a modular or they say a layered structure. So it should be built from a lower to a higher tier. And this led a few years ago to a basic concept, the basic interoperability model, where below you have the technical interoperability, meaning that you have two systems that somehow they're through Wi-Fi or through special internet protocols or through other protocols, they need to exchange some information. And on top of this, there are certain other more abstract. So technical interoperability is physical interoperability. So the systems, they need to talk somehow. And on top of that, there are several layers that are dealing with more abstract degrees of interoperability. And on top is the most, let's say, senior, if I may say so. I'm not sure it's the best word to describe it, the legal interoperability. And I didn't want to invent some random definition. So I find the actual definition that is being put into the European Interoperability Framework, the AIF. So legal interoperability is about ensuring that organizations operating under different legal frameworks. What are legal frameworks? Italy and Greece, Brussels and Greece, or Brussels and the I don't know, the U.S. Congress. Policy and strategies are able to work together. So it's quite broad. But as I said, it's getting more abstract as we go higher. All right. Before going to talk what I actually want to talk about, let's see the other notion that is in the title of my presentation. These are enterprise integration patterns. This is not something new. So it's not like it's an invention that happened in the past years. This has been quite huge in the developers world a decade and a half ago. It was established by two guys, Hoppe and Wolf, in 2004, Americans. And what they did is they said, look, we have all these systems around, and the world in 2004 or the beginning of the new millennia was already interconnected enough. We had the internet back then as well. We have the internet now, so it's not that the difference is not this. So they say, okay, how can we somehow make these different systems developed with different technologies and technological frameworks and technological stacks? How can we possibly make them work better? And they came up with a series of interoperability solutions. That's what they have been saying back then, using established back then, of course, and advanced for this period of time, messaging technologies. So if you think a little bit closer, this is rather natural. You have two systems that are connected over the internet, or maybe over an intranet, to internal systems. Doesn't matter. So how can we? They're different, and they need to somehow to exchange information and data. So how can you do that? Well, they have to message somehow each other, and the one system has to understand the messages from the other, and vice versa. And they established several. If you check the book out, it's quite interesting, as a matter of fact. They have selected and commented on several examples and key case studies that such a messaging technology could be used to facilitate interoperability between different systems. Somebody would ask me, yes, thank you, this is 2004. Is it still relevant? As a matter of fact, practice says that it is, and literature, obviously, because everything, well, an advancement is that lots of things, maybe the majority of major systems, have migrated online. So you still have things and systems or their representations residing on somewhere in the cloud and need to be talking to each other. So such a messaging structure is still relevant. Okay, let's. I don't want to lose time, Monica. I suppose we still have 10 minutes or so. Okay, so the original thought was good. We will use this pattern to advance legal interoperability between systems. But we need a case study. We need a demonstrator. What do we do? Which one we take? And since the team had already some experience, almost more than a year and a half now, playing around with LEOS, and we have demonstrated, we have applied an instance for a training at the National School of Governance in Greece, and set up a training last year. We thought, all right, we know how this works. Let's try somehow to apply APES, Enterprise Integration Patterns, with LEOS. So you have LEOS, a system. You need a second one. So interoperability needs at minimum 2 peers. So if you have one system, you need another one. So whom to talk with LEOS? And we thought a little bit, we say, well, the solution is quite at hand. We with our team had for years developing, wrong word, transforming data from the Hellenic Parliament, from parliamentary control data, from parliamentary control means, written parliamentary questions. So we have been transforming written parliamentary questions into structured open data. And when we said after something, well, this is the solution. We will repurpose LEOS. Here's the idea of repurposing. From it being an editor, an advanced editor, of course, to draft laws, to a solution, to a tool that drafts and handles parliamentary questions, which are also, in the sense of a komantoso, which are also legal documents. A komantoso is very versatile there. It defines several types of legal documents. It's not only laws, as you know. It can be judicial decisions. It could be minutes, from parliamentary sessions and so on. And we advance this concept by parliamentary questions, so parliamentary control. So you have two. Okay, here we are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you have two instances, and you have to try to make them talk together. Once more, why LEOS? As we were screening several different cases of tools, we thought LEOS is of interest for two main reasons, at least in our original thinking. First, it is a tested solution and it is usable. It is being used, so it's not an academic solution developed by some scientific group. It is a solution that is practical, and it is out there. So this would mean that advancing an existing solution might be more relevant for the people that already use it. So you would have immediately use cases there. If a parliament uses LEOS for legal drafting, and it sees that, oh, you can use that for parliamentary questions as well, they might think, well, let's simply try to use this solution out there and advance our system. And another point that we thought that it could be of interest is the following: that LEOS uses CMIS open standard, which is quite known. Which is a neutral way of storing documents and populating these documents with metadata. So these two things made LEOS for us a quite viable candidate. By the way, what we're talking about is currently under advanced review and is going to be hopefully published within the next months or so. So how do you make these two different? What are our systems once again? So we have an active system, let's say LEOS, that is producing documents, and we have a repository, a Mongo database essentially, where our parliamentary data in XML format is archived. And we have somehow a passive, that database is a passive system. So somehow these need to talk. And how can we do that? The solution was through the enterprise integration patterns to create custom software agents. A decade ago, we would say bots. I don't think it's in a lot of actual use right now, this word. We would say more scientifically, we would use customizable software agents that can be scaled. This would mean you could have larger databases or more databases, but in this demo, we would like to demonstrate it with just a simple use case. And this would be independent of the data, meaning that we could have several databases in the Italian Parliament, the Greek Parliament, in Brussels, in the European Parliament, of similar data sets, and we could nevertheless make these data sets talk together with a centralized instance of, for instance, a LEOS instance. And incredibly, this kind of thinking allows also can be expanded and allows for the design and implementation for more advanced solutions. So you can make these software agents, once they're there, you can make them more intelligent, built with built-in artificial intelligence functionality and so on. Make them with machine learning understand what these data are about and act accordingly. This is already a bit theoretical. So I will start now going in practical terms of how this system works. This is what I described earlier. We have the LEOS system, and on the other side, we have a data repository of whichever nature whatsoever. Of course, for the case study, this was very, very specific. And at the same time, we need to develop a system through Europe integrated patterns that makes those systems talk. What does this mean? Imagine you have two people. The one is speaking Italian, and a Greek. And these people, the Greek does not speak Italian, and the Italian does not speak Greek. How do they communicate? If you think a little bit, you will find the answer. Of course, they need to find a reference language. They would probably communicate in English. So this is exactly what these systems do. We attach to each system both the database, which is our own, let's say, system, and the LEOS system, which is the other end, the more active part. We attach to agents. These agents, I won't go in too deep into the detail because this has been implemented and showcased. It's software implemented, obviously. What this agent does is it reads the information from below and translate or transposes it into a reference language. And guess which is this language? Correct. This is a Komantoso. So we have from the one side, the Hellenic OCR team, or the Hellenic Parliament, if you wish, side, we have a Mongo database with data inside regarding parliamentary control. These are simple XML, or it could be an Excel file. It doesn't matter. The idea is to have a software agent which is attached and customizable to this particular data source. It will transform the data to a Komantoso, transmit it to the agent which is attached to the LEOS system, and LEOS system accepts this data, and of course LEOS reads and works natively with a Komantoso. So we would simply by that have achieved intercommunication between two completely different systems. And if it can be done for two separate systems, there's no theoretical border that you cannot do it with a multitude of different systems. You simply need to have customizable agents, software agents attached to each different system. This is a small fragment. This is how the data in our own database is there. This is simple XML data, an XML representation of one question. You see here question ID, the type of control. There are several types, obviously. Submission date of the question, the protocol number, the subject, the name of the MP, the ID of the MP, the name of the ministry you sent the question, the name of parliamentary group the MP belongs to, and so on. And at the other side, you need to translate this to a Komantoso-like format. And this for laws, this is a little bit more difficult, obviously. You're talking the whole day about that. For parliamentary control written questions, it's much more easier because they're static. They have a very straightforward rigid format. It's like that. It doesn't change. So it's very easy to have a one-to-one transformation capability for parliamentary questions, at least. Okay, results and some conclusions, and then we can move on to discussion. Indeed, we achieved to validate that such a demonstrator, I would say, works with real-life parliamentary data. That was a huge boost, so it works. Then, since it works and it can cooperate with, we achieved intercooperation, we achieved interoperability. So indeed, this dimension could be checked that it works as well. So this is there is fundamentally nothing that does not allow such a communication, a seamless communication between systems. Also, we succeeded in linking technically two different databases, because LEOS works still only, if I'm not mistaken, with Oracle, and we use Mongo. So we managed to make, through the whole systemic setup, of course, we managed to make two different databases work, which is quite interesting. At the same time, we're looking with high interest in the developments of LEOS, of the LEOS system itself. We had lots of problems. I won't say that this was easy. We had terrible difficulties at some point. But as LEOS, and I'm concluding, Monica, as LEOS is migrating towards Angular, we will have, I suppose, much more business logic, extrovert business logic that we can play with. Right now, lots of things in LEOS are still hardcore that you cannot play around. And this gave us terrible problems. There's lots of things to debate on. I wouldn't want to steal time for the discussion, from the discussion. Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot. And Monica, I give you back the floor.
Thank you so much for your presentation and also for sharing your knowledge concerning the project and the LEOS pilot case for now. And it is very valuable. I know that the plan of LEOS is enriching with new architectural features and also robust design architecture. So I think in the future we can take benefit from that. Do you have a question for Mr. Fitsilis?
Am I going to see that your questions in the chat, or you can?
No, but I read also for the registration, because we are registering. And my question is, are you focusing only on the bill or lawmaking system, including amendments, or also transcript or a parliamentary act?
Well,
what is your plan?
These are, okay, that's a fundamental question. It's about what is our strategy from now on, and how we go into the future. We had, as some of you might know, we had this I would say rather positive experience with many laws. So over almost 2 years, we had built and expanded our internal capacities, at least a group of people, regarding the handling of legal data and the transformation of legal data. And now, as a parallel action with my team, though I am a parliamentary professional, I try to see how Comantoso and LEOS works with parliamentary control. There's one basic problem here, Monica, and there's no point hiding it. The Hellenic Parliament has a broad digital strategy, but lacks, unfortunately, a concise and really rigid action plan. So we know roughly where to go, but we do not have analyzed the steps to reach this end. Meaning, we want to go to a fully digitized parliament, meaning a complete digital representation of laws and transcripts and questions and parliamentary control. This is a political decision and goal, but we have not succeeded yet to break it down to specific steps. So these steps that I previously mentioned, where also Monica has participated at, were rather ad hoc. Many laws was a European framework contract, and now our work here is a scientific initiative. As soon as we have talked and persuaded our political personnel that there are certain systems steps that are necessary towards achieving the main goals, then I would say that we will have done the most important step towards solving our problems.
Thank you so much. Very clear. So thank you so much. If you have further questions for our speaker, put in the chat and we come back later on. Thank you so much.